Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hola, it is Michelle Wong coming to you for another solo episode of the Sacred Emergence Podcast. Oh, it is a hot weekend, an upcoming week in Playa del Carmen. And I thought for this episode, I'd just give you kind of an update of what's been happening in my world and talk a little bit about releasing control, a little bit of releasing control, as well as the universe having your back. So I'm recording this in my new apartment. I moved here today, this afternoon, and I'm just really loving the energy, the space. It's very spacious, and I'm just so grateful. So it's not too far from where I was staying in the bed and breakfast, but I knew I was going to be here for at least a month, so I wanted to have just like my own space, having a kitchen, and just, having my own apartment. So I loved the bed and breakfast. It was amazing. And the lady was so sweet. The woman who's managing the bed and breakfast, she offered to drive me to my apartment. It wasn't too far away. And I was so grateful because, well, first of all, my bags are super heavy. It's like one in the back, one in the front. And it's like with the heat and all of that, oh my goodness. But technically, if it wasn't for my backpacks, I could walk to my new space, but I was going to take the cab, and she was so sweet to offer, and so that was something I was saying yes to receiving. Hashtag receiving experiment, which is in full swing, but if you're interested in joining us, link is in the bio. The community, the support, the energy in the group is phenomenal, and I'm just so excited for all the women who are in it, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen at the end of the 22 days that we are doing this. So anyway, I'm here in my apartment, and it's just really nice to be able to relax on my couch, and there's a kitchen table, a dining table. There's two bedrooms, and a beautiful balcony, and just has really great energy, so I'm really happy to be here. Anyway, it's also hot today. 32 Celsius, what is that? Like 85, 86 Fahrenheit. And literally before I started recording this, I was sitting right in front of the air conditioning system. There's a lazy boy seat, and I was like, I'm just going to be right here as I record my podcast, but it was getting a little too chilly right in front of it, so I'm off to the side. And okay, so I thought I'd rewind just a little bit and just share like a few things around releasing control. So for me, my human design, if I go more deep into the incarnation cross, which in human design, your incarnation cross is like your energetic purpose, right? It's kind of like, it's your energy, what it tends to be and carry out if you're in alignment. And so mine is a cross of tension. So I'm designed to provoke people into their leadership. And provoking is not always fun. There's that piece already, which is already, sometimes it could be a little bit of, quote unquote tension, given that it's the cross of tension. And then I also have, I'm an ego manifester, meaning that there's one channel that goes from the heart/ego in human design to the throat. And that channel is the money channel. So in human design, the channels that you have in your chart is like your life force energy. This is the energy that you put out, and it's consistent. And so the money channel is one that's about controlling your resources, assets, money, all the things. And, sometimes it trickles over. I'll speak from personal experience. It just trickles over to wanting to control everything. And so I decided before I came to Mexico that I was going to probably just spend 1 month in Mexico. And because I received my visa for Indonesia before I left for Mexico. And how it works is you have 3 months to get into the country once you have your visa. And then you have to quarantine for 5 days. That's the current rules right now at the time of this recording. So for me, I did not want to quarantine during my birthday, and that's, July 4th. I did not want to quarantine then. So basically, it's either I leave mid-June so that I quarantine sometime in June and then I move into my new place, in early July. But even then, I'm like, I want to celebrate my birthday with new people, with friends that I've met and that I meet when I'm in Bali. And so I was like, well, it seems like the best time then would be to just spend a month in Mexico, and then early June I head out to Indonesia. And so how the process works for the longest time, since the end of last year, is flights are only available for Jakarta. Like you had to fly into Jakarta, do your quarantine there, and then within the country, then you can fly to wherever you want to go. So there were no international flights flying into Bali or Denpasar, which is I believe it's like the central place for Bali. I don't know if it's correct to say it's the capital of Bali, but that's where the airport is. And so that was, I was like, okay, let's just do it. And luckily enough, I found the most perfect itinerary to go from Mexico to LA, so from Cancun to LA. I don't even have to spend the night. I don't have to the flight was so perfect. I land in LA around 6 p.m. and then, or maybe 9 p.m., 9 p.m. And then the flight from LA to Singapore, from Singapore to Jakarta, it's just all in one fell swoop, right? So it was like a red-eye flight all the way from LA to Singapore, and then it's like a 2-hour flight to Jakarta. And I was like, wow, I was able to find an itinerary that could do all of that within 24 hours. I was like, amazing. I think it was 20 hours maybe. But anyway, so I was like, okay, let's do it. And then a few days ago, I was on the forums for, visa processing, Indonesia, all of that, just, catching up on anything that I need to know. And there's a lot of discussion around what's the best quarantine hotel, all the things, and we have to pay out of pocket, right? And somebody was mentioning that actually Singapore Airlines is now opening up a few flights a week to go straight into Bali. And I was like, oh, what? Oh my God, that would save so much time, effort, and energy because I have 2 really big backpacks that are super heavy. And it would be so nice to just fly in directly from Singapore to Denpasar and then do my quarantine there. And then right there, I just go in after the quarantine. I don't have to take another flight. I just go straight to where I'm going to be staying, which is, that is still TBD. But I was like, oh my God. And so I jumped at the chance. I called up Singapore Airlines. And basically they were able to modify my flight. So then I fly out a day earlier because they only operate twice a week. And my ticket was not on one of the days, so I had to move it forward. Anyway, so I was super excited about that. And then what happened was because I had to buy a separate flight going from Cancun to LA, I could not do a one whole ticket. I had to split it up. So I went through Delta Airlines. And with Delta, funnily enough, when I was doing all of my research and getting ready to make the change for Singapore, I wanted to make sure I could change Singapore flight first before I modified the first leg of my trip on Delta. And the prices it was pretty much similar to the original ticket price that I bought it at. It was like a $20 difference that I had to pay. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so what happened was when I finally was able to get a hold of Singapore Airlines, which is a whole situation, and I can get into it, but I won't. It had to do with my cell phone carrier. They basically they changed my plan, my data plan, my cell phone plan without letting me know. And so for the longest time, I did not have actual connectivity with my phone, so it's so bizarre. But anyway, when I finally was able to switch my flight, this was past midnight, I went to Delta Airlines to make the change, and the price shot up. Like within that hour, the price shot up because it was like the next day, technically it was past midnight, and like the price doubled. And I was like, what in the world? And I was like, whoa, like I do not want to spend over $400 for this when I was only spending like 260. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch for the price to go down. And so I was keeping my eyes out on it. I had like the price tracker set, and that was, happening. I kept my eye on it. And then I was researching quarantine hotels in Bali. Now the thing with Bali is because it's more of like a laid back, more touristy area, like not touristy, but a lot of people go from other countries, and the hotel offerings for quarantine were basically more high end, but absolutely gorgeous. And so I finally, after a lot of research, I found one that was really well priced. It was right in the middle of Ubud, which is where I would be staying when I actually go to Bali, right? So it was right in the central location. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And the price was right. So I basically was trying to make this reservation go. And it was like pulling teeth. It was just really hard to get the hotel to issue me the payment link. And they did modify a few things because of just the terms of how long I'm staying. And so they were modifying the price of it so that it was a little bit cheaper. And I was like, great, can I book now? Like, how do I book? I'm ready to pay my deposit. And I wouldn't hear from them for like a day. And afterwards, like after waiting a day to hear back, it would be like, you'll get your payment link tomorrow morning, our time, through the sales and marketing team. And I was like, okay, so next morning, their time, I'm waiting, I don't see anything, and I reach out to them again, and I'm like, wow, like this is very laid back. Like this is like everybody's operating on island time right now. And I was getting really frustrated because I wanted to make sure I can get a spot and secure it. Because there's only a number of rooms that are dedicated to quarantine rooms. And from my research, this was the cheapest one on the list. And if more people are going to be in Bali, I did not want to, not have a space and have to go for something a lot more expensive. So anyway, it was dragged on. And like, this is something that I wanted since Wednesday last week, right? And when is this recording? Over the weekend, this is Sunday. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And like the person I was talking to on WhatsApp was just very slow in their response. And finally today last night she said, oh, we're gonna send you the link over email. I was like, okay. So I gave her my email link, and she just said thanks, and that was it. Oh my God, okay, so that's happening. I'm waiting impatiently. I'm keeping my eye out for the leg for Delta, right, to get from Cancun to LA. And I already have my flight to Bali booked, and I don't think I can modify it again, right? These airlines, like, you only get one-time modification for free. Anyway, so I am, again, back on the Facebook forum for just, Indonesia and traveling and all that. And somebody shared that due to like regulations, Singapore Airlines are actually canceling some of the flights to go to Bali from Singapore. And I was like, what? I was like, no. So this is like all the behind the scenes, the logistical stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I went to try to book my flight. I went onto the website just to see if I can actually like make the itinerary, the same one. And I wasn't able to. I was like, crap, but I never got an email. And it was just very interesting. So I was like, oh God, this makes me really nervous. And just people were saying, like, it's actually, if you fly into Jakarta, that's probably the best thing to do, because for sure that is, like, that's not going to change, right? Like, there's dedicated flights there. Anything else, then there might be changes, because this is new. Like, this is new coming up, and with everything that's happening in the world right now, with borders and all of that, people were just saying it's best to go into Jakarta for sure. And I was getting worried because my flight wasn't canceled. I didn't see anything about it. And I tried to call Singapore Airlines last night, but I was on hold for a long time and nobody answered. So I just sent them an email instead. Anyway, I was like, I think it's better for me to just go with the original plan. I'm like, oh my God, what a headache. And I was like, wow, like imagine what would have happened if I changed my flight, the first leg to Delta, right? Imagine if I ended up only paying the $20, or I was like, F it, let's just double the price, let's just pay for it. I'm tired of looking at it. Imagine I paid that, right? And this is on a different date. I already used up my modification. And then what if I already paid for the quarantine for Bali? I mean, I'm pretty sure I can get my money back, but this is a whole other like waiting and trying to get them to process everything is just like a whole different ball of wax, right? And so what happened was I was still on the fence, like, do I really want to do this? And then this morning I heard back from Singapore Airlines, and they said that for my day, my trip, it's actually still intact. Nothing has changed, but if I want to switch back to flying to Jakarta, I can. And I was like, okay, I think that's the right thing to do. And the quarantine hotels are a little bit cheaper. And the flight going from, Jakarta to Bali is not very expensive. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So I was, it's so funny because once I told them I wanted it, they were able to make the reservation for me without charge. And they said, just, call us to confirm everything. So I called the same number that I waited like over 30 minutes yesterday. And then this morning when I tried to call the first time, I waited for another 15 and nothing happened. So I hung up. And then this time, like the third time I called, it was instant. I got through instantly. And they're like, yeah, we got everything confirmed. And they just wanted, just to confirm my identity and all that. And then the ticket was reissued with the same seats that I booked the first time. Everything is just hunky-dory. And I was like, oh my God, like that was like, I'm just so grateful, I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for all of the sticky points that I was so trying to control. I was trying to control the whole Bali quarantine, right? I kept I called them, I, kept texting them and it was really frustrating because I wasn't getting a whole lot back. And then the other piece was the Delta flight, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is driving me crazy. And like sometimes with things like this, it's really beyond my control. And yet I'm trying to control it when the whole time the universe is like, Michelle, you just gotta chill. You just gotta chill. And so I'm very grateful. And, I think that part of this whole thing is just learning to trust and surrender as best as I can. I mean, there are some people who I just admire so much. They're so easygoing. They're so chill. That's not me. And I think knowing that about myself has been incredibly powerful, especially with knowing my human design. And then also it's like, yeah, I am in my design to control. And at the same time, there are times when releasing a little bit of control really works in my favor. And so I'm a big believer of being all of who you are, owning your chart full out in its highest possible capacity. And yes, with every chart, there's like a high expression and a lower expression. And it can be so easy for me to want to mentally and just be obsessed until I get what I want. And I can loosen that grip. And this is a beautiful example of it. And then there are times when I am who I am, and really honor that, not trying to fix it, not trying to like be someone that I'm not. But there are moments when there are things beyond my control where I can just take a breath and just be like, okay, everything is going to be crazy, calm, cool. So that's the update of Traveling Vibes. It's just been a whirlwind, to be honest. And it's crazy that I've already been in Mexico for how long? Today is Sunday. I've been here for over 2 weeks already. And I spent 2 days in Cozumel, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I went snorkeling, and apparently Cozumel is the barrier reefs in Cozumel is the second most important barrier reef in the world. The first one is the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And it was, this is the third time I've snorkeled internationally or snorkeled at all. This is the third time. I've done it twice when I was in Bali 6 years ago. And the first time I did it, the first trip I did in Bali for snorkeling was phenomenal. Like, I loved it so much. I stayed out so long, I burned my back. And so I feel like my expectations were super high. And I was just talking to a person that was staying at the bed and breakfast that I was at, and I was just talking about the difference that I was experiencing from snorkeling this time around and my expectations versus the first time when I was in Bali and all of that. And I was just telling him what the whole day was in terms of like the whole process, and feeling like I felt, towards the end, like I was getting a tourist experience instead of like an authentic experience, so to speak. And the person said, I feel like that's just the energy of Mexico. It's very kickback and very like easygoing. Not that like Bali isn't, but just like that's the vibe of Mexico. And I just realized like I have my own set of expectations, and in a different country it's like when in Rome, right? And so it really gave me a perspective to be more open-minded, to be more like going with the flow a little bit more, and just to like release the hold on how I expect things to be, and really like to go with the moment and trust that, at the end of the day, everybody is doing their best. The crew that was leading our snorkeling, I mean, they were doing their best, and were showing us around and explaining to us, even though they were mostly speaking in Spanish, which I don't understand. And sometimes they would translate it, but there was another person there who was also a snorkeling person, also just like myself, but he spoke Spanish as well and English and was able to translate. But it's like, you know what, like this is how it is, and it's okay, right? So it's just a different experience, different culture, and a lot of people love the experience, and so it's just a matter of perspective. And so that's kind of the lesson that I received, and just really like enjoying my experience, enjoying as best as I can, and also understanding like this is all part of traveling, right? If there's logistical nightmares, there's heat, there's sweat, there's mosquitoes, there's insect repellent I have to wear every day, there's sunscreen, I'm smelly, I'm stinky. I basically only wear my clothes once and then I have to wash it. And I'm close to the ocean, right? There's beautiful palm trees, there's beautiful fruit. The food is, it's amazing, and it's just like a whole different thing. So if I want to have that experience, it also comes with a lot of other things. And this is all about being able to have it all, being able to walk with it all. If I want the good, it's going to come with a balance of the quote unquote, I don't want to say bad, but it's going to come with its own baggage of growth, right? And so, yeah, so that's been my experience so far, and it's been wonderful overall. I'm very excited that I'm closer walking distance to the ocean. So my intention is once I get more in my groove and settle into my new place, my intention is to get up earlier and go for either a sunrise walk along the beach as much as I can every day. And it's not super early. It's like 7:15 is when the sun rises. So, and then I'll go to bed a little bit earlier, and that way it's less hot. I mostly go to the beach when it's sunset. It's a little bit cooler. In the morning, I sleep in until 7 or 8, but I might get up a little bit earlier now. And then during the day, I'm just going to hide out in the air conditioning or even on the patio because it's a little bit cooler. So yeah, that's the current vibe. And one of my intentions for coming here, Mexico, Bali, or I should say Mexico, Indonesia, is really being more on my feminine. And I feel like it's always going to be a muscle that I'm stretching, or I'm growing. But being more feminine, being in my flow a little bit more, and just being a little bit more like light, airy energy. And I feel like this place that I'm currently at can offer that. And it's so funny because I got feedback from some of the women who are in the receiving experiment, and they were saying how I have this airy flow when I did my welcome call. And that was like, ooh, like I can totally receive that, right? So anyway, that is the current vibe. I am so grateful. And it's crazy how time flies. Like 2 months until my birthday, literally last year, this time, I was tapping into how I wanted to live my 39th birthday. I'm turning 40 in almost about 2 months, like 2 months and a few days. It's crazy. And when I was tapping into that, I was like, wow, I want to be traveling next year this time. And here I am. So there's a lot to be said with intentions, right? But more to come on that. That's, when that happens, I will be in Bali. So more to come on that. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in. I'll put links below for the receiving experiment if you would like more details. And human design readings are still happening. They have a little bit of an upgrade in terms of the services that come with a reading. I've added a 20-minute bonus Q&A call 1 to 2 weeks of after our reading together, because I really wanted to make it about embodiment, integrating, not just information. So there is that option, or HD expanded, which has more time to really integrate and work with your chart in your business, in your life, all of the things, as well as the unfolding group mentoring membership. I love the ladies in there, and there is room for you if you decide you want to join. And of course, there's my one-on-one mentorship in the field. So I'll put all the links below. Reach out if you have any questions, and I am so grateful for you. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful week. Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.